So fast forward to the end of your time at SMU, you jump right into the NFL ranks, which again, probably not typical. Talk about that. How did you get hooked up with the Dolphins, and what did that look like?
And in December of that year, I started to turn my eye to the NFL, and I was like, okay, I want to give I want to go, I want to make a run at the NFL. I want to see if I can get a job. Now, I still didn't really know that many people in coaching, period, let alone people in my network that had worked at the NFL. And I didn't really know anybody, and I didn't know how to access those jobs. But like I was mentioning before, I wanted to do something that was authentic to me, but that also helped me stand out. Again, I don't have any name recognition. Really, the only name recognition I had was through a connection. So what I did was I made two spreadsheets. One spreadsheet was with the 2025 coaches who I'd worked with before, who I knew, and I made a timeline from 1970 to 2009, and I listed out everywhere that they had worked in that time. Then I made a separate spreadsheet with every employee in the NFL. So anybody that was a GM, anybody that was in player personnel, anybody that was a coach, anybody that I could basically find their history online, I made a spreadsheet and a timeline, 1970 to 2009. And when I matched those up together, anywhere that I saw a connection, Coach Smith, who I worked with at SMU, coached with Coach Williams, who's at the Cleveland Browns right now. Well, even if I didn't know if there was a connection or if they were friends or what, I would just write a letter. And hey, Coach Williams, I work with Coach Smith here at SMU. He says awesome things about you. Uh, like, I'm trying to get in the NFL. I'm going to be at the Senior Bowl in a few weeks. Can we meet for a beer? I'd love to get your advice on getting into the NFL. And I hand wrote all of these letters and I stapled my business card to like the top right hand corner. I was trying to just like separate myself in just one small way where if you open this letter, even if you didn't care who I was or know who I was, you would probably remember that somebody hand wrote you a letter with a stapled business card on it versus the form typed cover letter that we all send. And so I ended up writing 450 handwritten letters to anybody that like I literally had any type of a link to. I ended up getting 12 responses from those handwritten letters, and I qualify a response as anything that like denoted me personally. Anything that was like, "Hey, Evan, just got your letter. Thank you. I'll keep you in mind." Like that was a personal response. Out of
Mm-hmm.
those 12 responses, I ended up uh, three of those ended up leading to interviews, and one of those ended up landing me my job with the Dolphins. So a lot of tactical uh, authenticity that I was employing, kind of like again. I'm very big into handwritten letters. That was very true to who I was, and I was genuinely trying to get in front of these people to ask their advice for getting a job in the NFL. Again, kind of like indirectly asking for a job in the NFL, but not doing it like straight out the gate.
Yeah, and I think those statistics you just laid out are extremely important, not only for myself, but really anyone. And if your job remotely touches sales, like think about 450 letters, you got 12 responses. That's like a 0.25% hit rate. Um, so I mean that's important to remember because like not everyone you reach out to is going to respond. Actually, in your case, 99.75% of them won't. Um, but you mentioned touch the process or keeping in touch with the process, and that is the process, right? You send enough letters, somebody's got to say yes. And in your case, it was 12, and you got three interviews, and you got a job. Um, so you mentioned the Senior Bowl. Did you go to the Senior Bowl that year in Mobile?
Yes, I did.
And is that where your interviews were, or were you just there to kind of like see who you could shake hands with, or what was that experience like?
Another tactical piece I'll highlight here. I went to that Senior Bowl, and I apologize. I cannot recall where I saw this. Of course, now it's I don't want to think about it, but it's 12, 13 years ago. But I remember I had read something about it was about networking or something where it was like if you're going to go to an event, like try and don't just go to an event and meet people, like try and find the people who you want to connect with. So I made a top 10 list of people I wanted to get in front of. And we're talking about like the I mean, these are people, that list would be very recognizable to a lot of people in the audience if you're a general football fan. And if you're in, I'm sure you've been, Alex, like the Senior Bowl is like in terms of high level NFL decision makers, it's probably like the biggest hit rate of any place you can be outside the NFL owners meeting. Number one, and number two, it's extremely intimidating if you're not in that world. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely felt from like the moment I landed, I was like, oh wow, like I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't know anybody here, and they're all standing. I felt like it was high school again, and
Yeah.
you know, I was still the uncool kid, but I had those 10 people I had highlighted, and I ended up meeting 8 of those people, and it like I'll give you an example. Like I wanted to meet Matt Russell, who at the time was the director of scouting or player personnel with the Denver Broncos. And so I had like found him, and he was sitting with Brian Sanders, who was the GM, and Josh McDaniels, who was the head coach. And so I was at practice. I kind of like saw him sitting watching practice. And so I went like 20 rows up and just like sat there. And I was like, okay, Matt Russell's like a guy I wrote a letter to. I want to get in front of him. And so like as soon as practice ended, like everybody stands up, and by this time, the entire like Denver Broncos like contingency is like sitting in this like circle surrounding, the GM and the head coach. And I like made a beeline straight down the stairs, and then like I like walked down the aisle in front of where like Matt Russell, the GM, the head coach were all sitting, and I just like walked right up to Matt and I said, hey, Matt, how are you? I'm Evan Burk. You know my friend such and such that I coach with at SMU, and he says awesome things about you, and I just wanted to come shake your hand. Oh, did you write me the handwritten letter with the business card? Did you staple your business card to the top right hand? Oh, yep, that's me. Like, oh, so you got it. Like, I didn't know. You didn't reach out to me. You didn't
Yeah.
follow up and schedule a meeting. And so like those were the type of things I was doing, and that meeting, that interaction lasted 90 seconds, right? And so, but then it was like, hey, we're busy doing A, B, and C, but like reach out to me in a couple of weeks, and we'll meet, or we'll have a phone call or whatever. Oh, hey, thanks. So it's like I not wasted, but I spent like 45 minutes waiting for practice to end so I could have that 90-second interaction. I'm walking out of the practice field just after I had that interaction with Matt, and I'm walking down the outside of the practice facility. Like, I don't know people. I'm not just gonna like hang around like a loser, like standing outside their social circles. So I wanted to like make it appear like I had places to be. So I'm walking outside, and I see somebody on my list. He was like the director of pro personnel for the Houston Texans. So like I'm walking down this ramp, and I see him walking out of the stadium, and I like timed my pace so that I was like mimicking his pace, and I walked right in front of him like as this ramp I was on spit out into like the main thoroughfare, and I said, "Oh, hey, I'm Evan Burke. You know so and so at SMU. He says awesome things about you. I wrote you a letter. Oh, you wrote me a letter? Oh yeah, don't worry. I wrote it like a month ago. It probably got lost. Whatever, whatever." I was in Dallas, of course, at SMU. He was in Houston. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in Houston next week, so I'd love to come by and meet you. You're going to be in Houston next week? Yeah, I'm going to be in Houston next week. My cousin's there, and I got some stuff I got to do. And, like, yeah, I'm totally going to be there. So if you have time, I'd love to come by and see you. Okay, you're really going to be in Houston? Oh, yeah, I'm totally going to be in Houston. Okay, here's my card. Email me on Monday, and if I have time, I'll let you know. Okay, great. So I go back, I email him Monday morning. Hey, Mr. Smith, like, great meeting you. I'm in Houston from noon today till, 8 p.m. Friday afternoon. Let me know if you have free time. He ends up emailing me Wednesday evening at or afternoon, like 4:30 in the afternoon. Hey, Evan, I got 15 minutes for you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Like, can you make it or something like that? Like, oh, yes, sir. I'll be, I'm responding to that email like 2 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll be there with my suit on. So I packed up. My cousin actually did live in Houston. Drove down to Houston, which from Dallas is like 5 hours for those that don't know. Slept on his couch. Got up in the morning. Drove straight to the stadium. Had 15 minutes in front of that director of player personnel. Got right back in my car and drove the next 5 hours to Dallas. So those were the types of things I was doing, and I apologize to the audience. I'm getting long winded here and
No, it's great.
having story time with you. But those were like the things that I was doing just to put myself in the situation to like have 15 minutes in front of somebody who I didn't know and had no relation to. And eventually, like I said, got an opportunity to interview with the Dolphins and ended up hitting there. But those were the types of things that I was doing in during that Senior Bowl that first year.